I want to welcome you to our second session in our Transforming with AI series. This one is all about trying to foster a culture of academic integrity. We're so happy that you joined us today because this is somewhat of a difficult topic. We know that AI is here to stay and it's going to be a big part of our students' future. So we want to make sure that we're handling it appropriately. While AI has tons of positive aspects and ways for students to learn, there's also some negative things and concerning things that come with all of it. So we're hoping to, in this session, kind of help as much as we can. I do want to introduce the team. My name is Savina Thompson. I'm an instructional technology coach.
And my name is Sean Campbell. I'm also an instructional technology coach.
I am Elisa Nicolau, and I'm secondary ELA.
Yes.
I'm Liz Wright, and I'm the STEAM instructional coach.
There's a bit.ly right here that you can type into another tab. All right, these are our norms. You've probably seen them before. I just want to draw your attention to norm number 4, respect and appreciate the different ideas in the room. We're all coming with a perspective about AI that we've already developed. Maybe we're haven't even started using it ourselves and are very, very concerned, to people who have been using it and are excited about it. So just make sure that when you're in a breakout room that you are having a good professional conversation. All right, so we're going to start out with a fun video. Even if you're not a South Park fan, this is still a cute video. So go ahead and show that for us.
However, there were some essays that I'm very happy with. There was a really great essay from Clyde on the 1840s labor unions and their effect on the Industrial Revolution. Someone who never writes good essays, Butters, wrote an amazing piece on post-Cold War Poland and the changing provision of security. Feminist neoliberal perspective of post-war Afghanistan by Eric Cartman. This week we have a new student to the Check Plus Club for an amazing essay called Writing a Policy About Improving the Rights of Migrant Workers. Let's hear it for Stan.
Okay, so in that example, that teacher was totally oblivious to what was going on, but this group is not, right? We're all here because we're concerned that this could potentially happen in our classrooms. All right. Now we're going to start out with a Google form. So we kind of want to get a good idea of who's here today. Are you an elementary teacher? Are you a secondary teacher? What brought you here? So what are your concerns? What do you hope to learn? And I think there's like a question about how much you think your students are using artificial intelligence already. Okay, it looks like we have about 46 responses in total. Go ahead and look at some of the results. If you're still filling that out, no worries. What percentage of your students do you think are using generative AI? And it looks like most of us think about less than 10%, which is good. And we do have a healthy amount of elementary teachers here. So this might be skewed if we were looking at the data in terms of elementary versus secondary. About 20% in that next range, 30 to 50. And only about 11% think that it's greater than 50%. Okay, looks great. And then those of you who have discussed AI with students and actually have a policies somewhere around 11%. So I wonder if you're in that range of greater than 50, you probably have that policy and have had that discussion with those students. Interesting data. Thank you so much for filling that out. Okay, the goals for this session today. We have 3 parts to this training. First part, Sean's going to introduce you to some tech tools that you can use to try to detect the use of AI. Then Lisa's going to go ahead and share some strategies that will help encourage academic honesty in your class. And finally, I'm going to share some ways in which you can create alternative assignments that are difficult for AI to produce.
All right, to start off, we are going to do a quick recap of what AI is before we get into this conversation too deep. And I just want to say welcome again and thank you for joining us as we begin our journey into understanding the challenges of academic integrity and AI. it's important to understand what AI is. And many of you interact with AI, almost probably all of you interact with AI on a daily basis. Some of them are not that sophisticated, like our Siri and search engine prediction, lots of different things like that. But what we're talking about is generative AI. And generative AI is AI that actually comes up with new content and doesn't just go based on a series of instructions and perform things that it's already programmed to do. You are allowing it to create new content. And as we talk about our students, there is the possibility and high probability that many of them will choose to use this generative AI to complete assignments and things like that for them, where they will maybe not have to think about what they're doing and basically subverting the entire learning process. That's what we want to try and prevent, or as much as possible prevent, because that's why we're here. We want them to actually be learners. This is a really powerful tool, but it could be used in the wrong way. We have a quick video that kind of goes over what AI is, and I'm going to show that now.
Whether you realize it or not, you're probably using AI in your daily life. Typically, AI focuses on analyzing data to be used for things like translations or predictions. But there's another type of AI that you might have learned of recently called generative AI. Generative AI uses algorithms to analyze existing data, such as text and images, to then make new content. Now you can use AI to create entirely new images with DALL-E in Bing Image Creator, or generate code suggestions with GitHub Copilot. But AI is getting put to work outside of work by helping you draft things like a dinner party invite or an itinerary for a 4-day trip to Mexico City. To get technical, this all happens because large neural networks that work together like neurons to pass along information have been trained to analyze and recognize patterns within data. So let's try it. I, a person who entirely lacks musical talent, asked Bing Chat to help draft lyrics about this topic. It searched for information on generative AI and on pop songs and created this.
Generative AI can make anything, from text to images to sound. It learns from data and patterns, and then it makes something new and profound.
Okay, I'm back. Aside from catchy tunes, what can generative AI help you achieve?
So that's a brief overview of what AI is. We have, again, talked a little bit about that last session and this as well. A really big caution as students are using AI potentially as that permission level starts to happen at some point. And while you're using AI, we need to make sure that student information never makes it into AI. And that can happen in several ways. It could be you uploading documents. It could be you giving it permission to your Google Drive. The district is doing things to make sure that that doesn't happen. But you as the teacher are always going to be the one who's responsible to make sure that student information doesn't make it out there because AI is collecting that stuff and it is adding it to its databases in some different ways. And so you just want to make sure that you never put student information into your chats or into documents that you're uploading to it. All right, and into our tech tools. The first thing that we have AI detectors, and there are many, many of them out there. As a district here in Lodi, the one that we would suggest, just because it's the one we pay for, and it works fairly well, is Bloxy, and it can be used in many different ways. It has the AI detection, which I'll show you in just a moment, but you also are hopefully using it in many other ways. You can block sites like ChatGPT or Perplexity or other things so that students can't access it while they're in your classroom. And so that's one way that it can help, but you can also check to see if stuff they've turned in is created by AI or if it's plagiarized in general. Let's take a look at how you would do that. So this is a Bloxy classroom. You must be in a classroom for this to work. Otherwise, you won't see the plagiarism checker button. But once you're into a classroom, which the classroom does not need to be started, you can just click on the plagiarism checker. which comes up with a box that you can paste text into, or you can have it analyze a file that you upload. I have some text from a student that I will copy and paste. And when I paste it in there, I can then either check for plagiarism or check for AI generated text. And this text is written by a student, and it shows us that your text is likely to be written entirely by a human. So that's a good thing. It does that by looking at things like the perplexity score and a burstiness score. The perplexity, it's the measure of how well it conforms to our language's model expectations. So higher perplexity can indicate that the AI generated it, whereas the burstiness, it assesses how much there is in sentence length and complexity, and AI generated content usually lacks the natural burstiness that you would see in human writing. So it takes those scores into account, and it tells you whether or not it thinks it is written by a human or by AI. I'm going to clear the contents, and then written from ChatGPT using the same exact prompt that that student was given. So this is from ChatGPT, and I'm going to click check for generated text. And based on the scores, it says your text is likely to be written entirely by AI. You can also use this for, I've tested it on many other things where it will say parts of it have been written by, and then if you look in the analyzed text, you can see that it highlights everything that it thinks was written by AI. And in this one, it was everything, and it happens to be that that was true for this one. However, that is not always the case. It is really, really important to know that these are not foolproof. And as AI continues to get smarter and smarter, it is going to be harder and harder to detect what is AI and what is not. Another limitation of this, when you are pasting in the text, you have a 250 word max. And so if you are trying to look at a full paper that a student has written, you could use the analyze the file, but you do not get to see what's highlighted as potentially AI generated when you do that. So it's about a paragraph's length is what you can paste into the box when you're doing this. So that is the AI detector that we suggest. And again, it is not foolproof. The next one is version history. Many of you have probably used this before. It is in the Google Suite. And as you go to a document, you can click file down to version history and see version history. It will then show you all of the changes over here in the side. You can switch between all versions or named versions. Really, really important as you're using the version history in order to see what has been potentially copied from somewhere else, like a generative AI or from just the internet in general. It's really important to start off by telling your students that your expectation is that they do all of their work on the document that you assign to them. So they should know that you should never, if you were to go back and look at this document, see entire paragraphs of text just appear in the document. You should, if you looked back at it, see that students were typing in and that it was never copied and pasted into there. And you should let them know that you're going to be looking at that, which will help kind of just make them aware that you do care about whether or not they are being the ones who are creating their content, and if they're being honest in that endeavor. So that is version history. There's also instructions there on the side on how to do that. But again, tell all students beforehand that you're going to be doing it, and that all the work should be done on a doc. One step even further than version history, a really cool extension is the draft back extension. And if you see the GIF that's playing there, it is showing you what draft back does. You can, when you install the extension, as long as you are an owner or an editor of the document, so when you assign a document to a student through Google Classroom, you are an owner editor of it. Any edits that they do on that document at all, every single thing that they do is tracked, and you can go back and press at the very top of the document when you're looking at it. There is a thing that says draft back, and you click draft back, and then you can see a recap of every keystroke and everything that was ever done on the document in real time or sped up. And so you'll be able to see, as it just showed, that a whole paragraph of text was pasted in there, and it wasn't something that was typed in. It's also really interesting to note that using draftback, you can see things that have been deleted and have never been put back in there. And students, it would be really good to tell them that, so that they know that they shouldn't be typing things that they would not want you to see. Maybe their opinions of you or your assignment or those types of things. So again, this is something where you would need to preface it with the students that you will be using this, and then also let them know that anything and everything they do in their work must be done on this document, and you should see the fact that they are typing out their document, not pasting in sections of content unless it is a direct quote. All right, now that we have looked at a few tech tools, we're going to give you the opportunity, 5 minutes to try one of those out. All right, hopefully you've had a chance to check out one of those 3 different ways that you can use technology to kind of see if your students have been using generative AI. But we're going to move into what I think is even more important, and that is setting expectations and having difficult conversations, and some things that Elisa is going to talk to us about. So I'm going to pass it on to her.
All right. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. And again, we're really happy that you're all here today, because this is new and something that is exciting, but also something that can be stressful in the classroom if we're trying to figure out how to navigate it. So my section is all about encouraging academic honesty. The 4 things I'm going to focus on today are communicating expectations, collecting a baseline, building relationships, and then having those tough conversations with students if you have to. All right. Okay. So the first thing, and probably one of the most important things, is communicating expectations with your students. The clearer you are, and I'm sure you all know this as instructors, if there is less ambiguity in the room, it is better for everybody. So one of the things I would do if I was in the classroom right now, and I was a secondary instructor, I would have some type of AI disclaimer in a syllabus, on assignments, on Google Classroom, whatever that might be. I understand we're a quarter into the year, so the syllabus may not work at this point, but that doesn't mean that you can't still create one or use the one that we're going to show you an example of in a second, and just start attaching it to your assignments so the students are seeing it, the parents are seeing it, and then posting it on Google Classroom. And then do we want to show them the disclaimer? We can click on that. And then Liz, maybe you can speak to this. I'm not sure if this is something that would be applicable to elementary schools too, or some of the levels at least. But this one was from Edu Protocols, and you're welcome to use it or to adapt it. It just goes over what is AI, how it will be used appropriately in the classroom. It's very, very clear about what academic honesty is and what it isn't. So that is so important, just so that we all have these students who kind of try to catch us on things. So the more clear you are, the better off you will be, and it will help them out too. Another thing you want to do is be clear with expectations for each assignment before the students start working on it. So just constantly reminding them of what you want them to do, what you want them to use, how you want them to cite sources. Those things are really, really important. And post your expectations where students can refer back to them in several different places. So put it on your assignment, put it on Google Classroom, put it on the board, whatever it may be, but just constantly bringing that up and reminding them is really, really important. The next thing is clarifying in certain terms when it is not okay to use these services on assignments. There are ways that these can be used in a really positive way when it comes to maybe research and stuff like that. And we'll get into that at our next training, hopefully. But just being clear about that is important. And then the last thing is just having a conversation with your students. I would do this at the secondary level for sure, just acknowledging what AI generators can do and what they can't do. Sean got into this earlier, so did Savina. You can tell when a kid has written something and when it's come from an AI generator. I would be very honest with them and say, when I'm reading your work, I know what you sound like. I read all of your work. I know how you sound on the page. If your diction is all of a sudden very sophisticated, there's a flag going off. If you can use the comma correctly and everything's punctuated right, I know something's up. So I'm just very honest about that. And it's good to mention that to them because they understand. If you say, tell me how you use a semicolon, they can't most likely. So those are little things that you can do to tell them, like, you know, the difference when they're writing. Okay,
I just wanted to jump in. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I know you had asked for Liz, and I don't know if she popped off for a second, but she did give us some ideas in terms of elementary students, maybe bringing that up at back to school night with parents or sending a letter home. And then it's up to you whether you want to be vague with your students and say, hey, it's just not okay to copy, whether that's the person next to you or something you found online. So that way they know that online could be something like ChatGPT or just Googling something. Or you can be completely upfront with students and let them know that you're aware that this is out there and they might be seeing it at maybe that 4th, 5th, 6th grade level.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you. The next thing that you can do to encourage academic honesty is collect a baseline from your students. So some type of writing diagnostic that you can get from them is really, really important. It doesn't have to be something you do the first week of school. It can be something you do anytime. Just get something from them before you have like a major writing assignment that you're going to hand out. And you want it to be substantial enough that you can hear their voice and kind of get a feel for the type of writer that they are. And I have a few sample assignments on here. You could have them do just personal essay or some kind of personal response, goal setting writing assignment. I will explain what I used to do with my students with that, or any type of reflective writing. And with goal setting, I think this can be done in most of the levels and in any discipline, really. I used to have my students reflect, like, say, right after fall break, they would come back and I would say, write a paragraph about how you did in your classes last quarter. And they would do a half a page and explain how they did, what their struggles were, what went well. And then I would have them set 2 goals for the next quarter and tell me why it was important, why they picked it, how they planned, what the steps were to accomplish the goal, etc. So then when they were done, I had 1.5 pages to 2 pages of writing, and I would keep it. And it was beneficial for a couple of reasons, because they're setting goals, which is important, and reflecting. And then I also would just keep it so I could tell what kind of a writer they were. And if I needed to refer back, I would have something like that. The next thing you could do if you don't want to do a goal assignment or something of that nature is you can build the baseline into the actual assignment that you are going to hand out. So if I were back in the classroom right now, this is what I would be doing with every major writing assignment. And it was something I had to do when I taught AP English anyway, because the kids wrote 20 essays a year. And so they would start off with a timed essay and they would get that draft done in 1 class period. If you needed it to be 2, that's okay. And then they would come back, I would sign off on the draft, then they would revise it. So at least I had that baseline for that assignment before they started typing. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can chunk that for them if you want to, if you don't think they could write an entire like on-demand essay in a couple of periods. But that's really, really important just to get that draft done. And then you don't have to worry about them being on technology or computers or anything of that nature. And then just make sure when you collect the final draft of the assignment that they also turn in their on-demand writing draft. And again, this is going to minimize cheating and also give them a chance to work on on-demand writing skills, which are really important for CASP testing and also AP testing and things like that. All right. And another one, which we all pretty much know, building relationships with students, the benefits of that in most areas of teaching. But again, this is really helpful with respect to getting students to turn in their own work, to ask questions. If you have a good relationship with a student and they're comfortable talking to you, they are more apt to ask questions, which is one of the reasons students turn to these AI generators and other resources to cheat. It's not, it's not the misnomer of they're just really lazy. That is not the reason why students often cheat. Sometimes they're just really insecure or don't understand the assignment. So it's good to keep that in mind. And if you have a good relationship, hopefully they will come talk to you and ask questions about the assignment. Another thing that I got out of this article was students may also feel more shame about cheating when they have a strong relationship with their instructor. All right, so then you might get in a situation, and we've all probably been there at one point or another. As a teacher, even though this is AI, we've had to deal with cheating in the classroom for, since the beginning of education. So if you find that you have to have a tough conversation with students, these are some tips and things that you can do to try to navigate that, because the most important thing is we want you to preserve the relationship you have with your student. And if you go in accusatory, you could really damage that relationship, and we don't want you to do that. So the first thing is don't hesitate. Academic integrity can only be achieved if students see you follow through with something. And then just prepare for the conversation. So think of the 3 C's when addressing any type of misconduct. Be clear about the behavior in question. Be compassionate. I'm sure the student will be really nervous or have some type of distress because they have to talk to you about this. And then just be really candid about your concerns.
One thing I did want to add in is just kind of thinking about it like the calculator. When the calculator was introduced into the classroom, that was a big shift in math, right? And so on the elementary side, if we think about AI, the kids are going to be using it. It's just, if the kids using the calculator at home on their math homework, you're not going to them like, you used a calculator, this is a 0. You're talking to them about how they can become a better math student or showing their work. And so for me, that helps me think about how I would approach some of the younger students.
Perfect. Thanks, Liz. I appreciate that. And then the last part I wanted to share is this is more of a scripted way that you could have a conversation with a student. If you find that you have to have these tricky conversations and you're not quite sure how to navigate it, you could refer back to this. So the first thing is beginning with a statement of some sort, like, I have concerns about your recent assignment and I just would like to chat with you about it. And then the next thing is ask the student a question, but then let them tell their side of the story. So genuinely let them talk and see what they have to say. And then after listening to the student, that's when you express your concerns, and you would say, I'm concerned because the information I have suggests you did not write the paper because of whatever it may be. And then wait and see how the student responds to that. And then based on that, you can tell the student what you're planning to do next. And this could include just thinking about their response and thinking further about the next steps, which I recommend. And then maybe reporting the incident. It just really depends. And it is important we are training students how to be successful in our classes and also in college. And if you cheat in college, you can get kicked out of college for this. So it is really, really important that they understand that we are here to help them. And it's not a I gotcha situation. We just want to help get them on the right path so that they can be successful.
Okay, I hope you had a chance to go ahead and play the game, see your responses in terms of your answers, and then check out the correct answers. If not, you can come back to do that at another time. If you want to learn more about how we got this information, we got it from an article. Now, a lot of the articles that we found dealing with this topic have all been at the college level. It's the college level that has had to really dig in and figure out what kind of assessments can we do that's different so that they're AI resistant. But if you go to the article, it's kind of a little bit not difficult to navigate, but it is sorted in different menus. So you'll have to click on the link, click on target higher order thinking, and then click on read more about the examples in the table. So moving on. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about tips for writing AI resistant assessments. Notice it just says AI resistant. There is nothing that's AI proof. And if you get really proficient at writing prompts, there's pretty much nothing that it can't do. So we're going to work on writing AI resistant assessments. All right, so the first piece of this is just considering how you design the assessment. You can totally take everything away as far as a Chromebook goes and do nothing but in-class activities, paper and pencil. That's one method, totally offline. You could also do in-class activities, but maybe you're monitoring it on Blocksy and then actually actively blocking those different AI tools like ChatGPT and you can't do Google Bard, but some other ones that pop up like perplexity.ai. You could do a flipped classroom design where students gather the knowledge that they need for the content that you're working with at home, and then they come back and do those in-class activities in your classroom. So you can see if they're using AI or if they're actually, learning from the experience. You could even encourage, not yet, once we get data privacy agreements signed, you could even encourage that students go and learn by using that AI. So that way, when they come to class, they have some experience either debating the topic or looking up that information. You could work on creating tasks that involve students adding their own personal experiences, whether that's at home, in the town that you live in, or just a reflection. So making their experience a big part of the assignment is something that AI doesn't do very well. So that's a big one. For example, you could say, if I'm reading Romeo and Juliet and I'm going to ask them to write an alternate ending to the story that I'm reading, and then include story elements that relate to some of the landmarks or events that are happening within our town. So AI is going to have a difficult time doing that. You could do some performance-based assessment. So they could even use AI to kind of gather the information, but then they're going to have to present it and they're going to have to be knowledgeable in that presentation in class. You can have them make videos, do debates, podcasts, project-based learning, and some experiments. So some performance-based assessment types. And then another assessment you could use is divergent thinking activities. So here students can do brainstorming, they can do mind mapping, like if you've ever seen hexagonal thinking, that is a type of mind map that they could do. They could role play, look at a case study that has multiple solutions. Lots of different ways in which you can try to get them not to use AI to solve a problem. Another thing we want to stress is assess the process, not just the final product. So do some check-ins with your students. Maybe you are station rotation, and part of that station rotation is a teacher-led station where the students are working with you and kind of reviewing how they're doing with their learning, whether that's during an essay or during a project or during a lab experiment. A teacher check-in. You could do exit tickets that are super quick where they don't have time to go and reach out to AI, just to kind of get a good idea of where they're at. So that way, you, like Elisa was saying, you have somewhat of a baseline of where how they are in their learning. And then quick formative assessments as well. You can ask them to reflect often. So reflect on how they learn, reflect on what they're thinking, and how can they learn better. Okay. Requiring drafts is a great way so you can see that progress. and then even have some class discussions. Now, on this page, I went through a lot, so there are some links here. So anything that's underlined has a link out to some more information on those topics. And of course, as Sean mentioned, you can use AI to check AI, but again, that is not foolproof. There is a chance that that's done incorrectly. So not something I would rely on heavily. All right. So if you need help creating alternative assignments or assessments, there is a tool that you can use. It's currently free for teachers. Magic School AI has quite a few tools, but one of the tools that I really like is the AI resistant assignments. I'm going to sign in or sign up with Google. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and create an assessment. So something I normally do. Actually, this isn't anything that I normally did, but this is something I picked. I'm going to show you a 6th grade assignment. It's a country report. So normally I might have my students write paragraphs about a country, their geography, history, government, economy, people, and include an introduction and a conclusion. So if I click generate, what this is doing is it's giving me assignment ideas and it's telling me why it feels that it is AI resistant. And it's giving me 1, 2, 3 different ideas with those explanations. If I don't like them, I can do a few things. I can shorten them. And it'll rewrite it. Or I can tell it to do some other things like summarize, or it has its own kind of chatbot in it called Raina. If I ask Raina, like, make this assignment more fun, or just fun, she might do something that has information that excites my students, like get ready for an exhilarating journey. I could also tell her, I don't like those examples, give me 3 more. We'll rewrite them. And I can find something else that I like. So there's lots of ideas in here that will either personalize the assignment for the student or just make it a more creative assignment. See that some of you were very impressed with Magic School AI. It does use ChatGPT to produce a lot of the things. And so at our last PD, we talked about doing that without the use of an outside source like Magic School AI. This is a nice, easy tool. Someday it might possibly go from free to charging. So if that ever happens, or when it happens, we would love to show you how to use other tools to generate the same things. So, all right, I hope you got a nice little tour and you were able to redesign something you normally do. All right, in the next slide, we have a spot where we are listing other tech tools like Magic School AI, and we would like to know if you know of any. So if you click on the Padlet link, you'll see options. And so it's set up in categories. And those categories are just the different types of tools that are out there, whether it's a like lesson planning tool, or maybe it's an image generator. Sorry, I was in the chat and I did notice that the timer ends. So yes, Todd, even if, if we're using AI, which was what our first PD was on, how can teachers use it to make their lives easier? Eventually, we hope to get to the point where we can have students using it, but not to just do everything for them, but to help them learn. And the letter of recommendation, I was looking at that one as well. I wasn't super comfortable with that version because you're putting student names. I would avoid putting a student's name into Magic School AI and the school that they are looking to go to. So if you would just put student A and then just change the name. But here's our next slide. We do have some more PDs on AI. So some of you came, I think I saw one comment that they wanted to look at how can we get students to use it. We are still working on figuring out how can that same thing, how can we do that and then have our students do it safely? So looking at data privacy agreements and all of that fun stuff. So we're going to hopefully figure out as much as we can February 6th, because that's when our next PD is. Then we have a repeat of the first session where we'll talk about using AI as a teacher. So if you came to learn about AI and how to use ChatGPT to solve a problem for you or use something like Magic School AI, we're going to be doing that one in April. And those are linked out to the actual professional development page. Current student permissions, so we do want to make you aware, it's not something that's blocked by the district, but it is something that students need permission to use. Currently, ChatGPT is the only one that's 13 and over needs a parent permission form, but we don't have those set for our district just yet. All of the other AI platforms, at least for large language models, they are 18 and over. When you have it set as 13 and over, if they get accounts, they do need a cell phone number and they do need parent permission. On this page, we just have some resources for you. So we wanted to share with you what is the school board policy for the state of California, or the suggested for our for districts. And if you click on that link, you'll see what they recommend. Then we have our current district board policy. Now this was written in 1998, so it should be going through an overhaul soon. Then at your site level, so different sites have different academic honesty policies. You'd have to look at your school site and then look up their student handbook. And then for the teacher level, you can always write a disclaimer in your syllabus. There's a link there that is an example that Elisa shared earlier. This is just a reminder that if you want some help with the tech part of what's going on, Sean and I are available to help you. And you can just click on any one of the emails that you get on a weekly basis and schedule an appointment for any of the things listed here. And then if you want more help at the elementary level, maybe talking about it, Lisa's there. I'm sorry, not Elisa. Liz is there. Elisa would like to help you with talking about academic honesty with your students. Sean, can you click on our AI website link right there? So I went ahead and included a link. This is where we're posting all of our sessions. And this is the Padlet's posted here, session 1, the slide deck and the video. So if you want to go back and see what that was like, it's here for you. And then eventually we'll post session 2. I did want to mention to everyone who is here, so we do want to say thank you for attending. I know it's going to take some time to get all the time cards flushed out, but if you already have your time card submitted and you've already done the survey, we want to say thank you for joining us today. And I hope that if you have any questions about AI that you reach out.